Question: what do these jobs have in common? Accountant, carpenter, beautician, electrician, photographer, graphic artist, interior designer, choreographer, writer, chef, seamstress. They all work in the Oklahoma film industry. And there's a place for you to join the action. Learn more about starting your film career in Oklahoma by visiting okfilmmusic.org/getting started.
Hello there. So we are back. We just did the Q&A with you, and Alisha and I have just gone and changed back into our clothes that we were wearing earlier. How bizarre is that? So we have got some other stuff that we want to go over with you. Maybe we answered some of this in the Q&A, but this is so important. And Alisha and I were just chatting because if you turn up for the first day on set and you do not get an element of this right with set etiquette, then you are unlikely to be asked back. You don't have to know exactly how to do the role, but if you are showing that set etiquette and you're showing that respect, and respect is a big thing that we're going to get into in a minute with Alisha, there is very little chance of you going back. There's very little chance of someone taking you up as that mentor and saying, you know what, the next film I'm on, you're going to be on it as well. And we're going to go film to film to film together for a period of time until you are really up and running. So we've got a few things to go over. We just dealt with the idea of respecting boundaries and talking to that A-list talent. We went into that quite a bit, but I think one of the other things that we've got to do, and again, this comes back to respect, is as a PA, sometimes you have to do lockups. And well, Alisha, first of all, I know we're using some terms as we go through. What's a lockup?
So a lockup is basically, it's a position that's given to a production assistant that protects the frame of what we're shooting. So the camera frame might be in front of this storefront and the actors are gonna walk by and go into the store. Well, you're gonna put a PA on this side and a PA on this side with their backs to the frame, to what's being shot, so that they can look out and stop pedestrians that are coming into the shot maybe, or so that they can cue the background to cross through the scene. So a lockup is what a PA does that's protecting the frame of what's being shot from crew members crossing into the shot, from equipment, from perhaps just the community. Maybe we're shooting in downtown. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it is. It's just protecting the frame.
So I think when you're looking at a lockup, one of the things, and this isn't just when you're a lockup PA, but this is whenever you're out on location, it's respecting the people who naturally live in that environment. In many cases, they are being put out in a very big way, having this film shoot in their environment. So we have to give a huge amount of thanks and respect and give them the space that they need. And sometimes it's a case of saying, hey, you can't do that just at the moment because we're just going for a take, or we can't do this, we can't do that. Let me find out for you. But the more that you can give those people in that local community that respect and that gratitude, the better, right? Because it can backfire pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Because, here's the rule of thumb. So a lot of times I think we in the film industry, we think, it's our world and you're just living in it. No. If we're out in the community, if we are in a neighborhood, if we are downtown, it's their world and they've graciously let us live in it. So we need to respect the community, respect the public. And in fact, what happens, I've shot in downtown LA, hate it, literally hate it. Anytime anyone would be like, hey, do you want to come in tomorrow? We're going to be in downtown LA. Oh, no, sorry, I don't want to come in. Thanks for the offer. But no, the rule is we can't block pedestrians for coming into our shot. Now, what we can do is politely say, and I can't tell you how many times I've had to do this. Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. We're actually filming a television show. If you wouldn't mind waiting, it'll just be about 60 seconds or another 90 seconds if you wouldn't mind waiting. And depending on that's how you approach them. Depending on what they say, depending on what happens, they might go, no, I have a job to get to. And you're like, okay, ma'am, go ahead. You can't stop people. Now, sometimes you have permits where you can, where it's locked down, but oftentimes you have permits where you can't stop pedestrians. So it's being polite to those people. Sometimes you're going to get a negative response no matter how respectful you are, and you just let them through. It's also not worth your life, especially if you're shooting somewhere like downtown LA and a homeless person wants to walk through. You step to the side and you let them, because trust me, as a PA making minimum wage, it's not worth you getting, injured. So, but it is about respecting the fact that we're in their neighborhood, we're on their property.
And then also, they other neighbors can get frustrated because there's lots of cars on the road. Perhaps they didn't realize that the shooting was going
The
on.
footprint. Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you can be in the middle of a take, and someone's gone out and got a leaf blower and is making this enormous racket because they are fed up because you didn't deal with them the way that showed respect. And if you just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you weren't aware. Is there anything I can do?" In some cases, it's as simple as just chatting to someone and there's some donuts out and offering them a donut, right? But that means that all of a sudden, filming can continue without it being interrupted. And as we started off with the whole thing, every hour that you shoot costs an extraordinary amount of money. So if one person wants to get that leaf blower out or cut their lawn or what have you,
Oh yeah, happens
that's
all the
going to
time.
cost you a fortune. So you got to be mindful of the people all around you. And set etiquette isn't just about your set and the people there on the film crew. It's also etiquette for everyone whose environment you are actually inhabiting for that day of shooting.
And respecting the community, respecting the location, and respecting the location in and of itself. Even if we pay thousands of dollars to rent someone's home, it is still their home. It is still their business. So we have to respect that location and understand that we paid for the day. I've heard a lot of people be like, well, we paid to be here. Yeah, we did. But it was very nice of them. And it's a business transaction. We don't want to come in and trash their home. And also, even if we're on a soundstage, still respect the set. Why? Because that's an on-set dresser's job and the art department's job in order to dress this set. And if they're having to walk by, picking up your Coke cans because you've left them on the set irresponsibly, that's someone's job. Respect other crew members. Respect the location.
I think that's a good point when you look at food and drinks and trash on a set, is that it's, there are people there looking out. You've got your continuity looking out to see if anything's been left on set. But we've all seen the Game of Thrones where the Starbucks cup was left on the set, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to do. And it's something that you do not want to be the person who then they have to go and spend a fortune on visual effects to take out that Starbucks cup.
Yep.
And so one of the best things that you can do is not bring any of your food, any of your drink, any of your trash into a hot set environment.
Yep.
Now,
Absolutely.
there may be some food set up right by the set. I mean, craft services and what have you. But my argument would be try and keep it to that. Try and keep it to that environment. And if you see trash lying around,
pick it up.
Pick it up. Right? You don't have to say, hey, it's not my trash. Pick it up, because the more that you can support that environment, the better you're going to look, right?
Yeah. And you know what? It's all also about understanding other people's jobs and respecting other people's jobs and knowing exactly what that person's responsible for. For example, to any of the on-set dressers listening, you're probably going to love this shout out. They're typically a department of one person. And do you know how much they're responsible for? A lot. Anything that needs to be moved on a set, whether it's undrill this photo frame and put it over here, and hey, move this couch out of the way. We need to move this couch and carry this dresser out of here and take this rug out of the way. And also, clean up my water bottle that I just threw on the floor. Like, when you begin to understand what each job is responsible for, you'll begin to respect that person's position. So I think that's important. Understanding what each job is responsible for.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there are a ton of jobs on a film set, so no one expects you to understand them all. Again, there are resources online. Google's one of your best friends in that sort of situation. But the quicker that you can start to understand what everyone does, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to plug the new podcast coming out from the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy, where Alisha is actually hosting a load of interviews, right, Alisha?
Yep. Everybody make sure you check it out, because there's a lot of valuable information and you're going to hear from a lot of credible people, a lot of assistant directors, DGA trainees and PAs, because that's my particular department of expertise. You're going to hear a lot of great stories and do's and don'ts and how they got in, and just different bits of information on specifically what they do. So be sure to tune in and check those out.
So the podcast called Film Crew 101 is going to be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the normal. And essentially what we're doing is we've looked at every single role on a film set, and we sit down and we interview someone who's really at the height of their career and done some amazing stuff in that role about what is their day-to-day life? What are the expectations? Who works below them? Who works above them? How do they get their job? So it's a really good understanding for anyone interested in growing with this business to not only get a good handle over what everyone does, but also understand how whatever area you're working in, what you can do to make that person's job easier. Because the easier that you make everyone else's job, the more likely you are to be on project to project to project to project.
Absolutely.
Look out for that.
And
So,
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Richard.
No, go for it.
I was just thinking, along those same lines of respect and respecting other people, I'd also like to point out a few other departments, like, you know, first of all, respect the chain of command. I wanted to talk about that because, you know, trust me, I've worked for a lot of great people and I've also worked for a lot of horrible people. And, but your job is to respect your boss. You may not like your boss. You may not like how they do things, but at the end of the day, if you're trash talking and you're gossiping, and we've all been a victim to this, we've all done this, but I can tell you that trash talking and gossip is counterproductive. So respect the chain of command and how they decide to run things, because at the end of the day, they're your boss. Respect the PAs, and I know I mentioned this, but you know, their information is coming from the boss. You know, just understand that they're the messenger. Oftentimes they're doing their job. When we're filling a van to go out to location, we've been told by transportation and by the ADs, hey, don't send that van unless it's full of crew members, because the round trip is 20 minutes and we can't let a van go with 5 people in it. And I'm telling you, a lot of crew members get very upset with this, and they're griping and complaining and giving the PA a lot of lip. And you know, respect them. They're doing the job for a reason, and it's for everyone's benefit. Because what if you were the person that missed that half full van and you're standing there waiting for 20 minutes? Would you think about it differently? I think that you would. You know, respect them when they're asking you to be quiet. I know we already touched on that, but don't disrespect their lockups. They've been placed there for a reason, and you might think, you know, I heard cut, I'm gonna walk past here, and you're like, no, stop, we're still rolling. I heard cut, and you think you know best, and you walk into the shot. Guess what? You're gonna be called out. Why is Billy in the shot? He blew my lockup. And Billy, you're gonna be under fire. So respect the PAs. And sorry if I'm rambling here, but
no, this is really good stuff, because it's a lot of people, I think there's an element of you want to respect the higher ups, but then there can be this game of, oh, what position are you in? What position am I in?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what position you're in, because you all have a responsibility on that set. But you've got to make sure that you respect that everyone is a cog in a machine, that if one cog doesn't work, then nothing's going to work.
You know, and that's right, Richard. Respecting the higher ups and respecting the lowest people on set. And on the flip side of that, on the talent side, respect the actors. You know, not only while we're rolling, respect the actors when we're rehearsing. We do private rehearsals, we do marking rehearsals. Be quiet, because the director and the producer and the writers and the actors are trying to work through this scene, and they're trying to figure out how to set the scene up. Let's respect them. When we're rolling, there's a thing called an actor's eye line. Maybe they have to look, you know, camera right or camera left, and they need to be able to focus on a scene, an emotional scene. And I'm sure you can speak to this, being an actor yourself. If you're standing right there, right in their line of sight, you're going to interrupt their process. And
there is nothing worse than I did a scene with it was a thing for A&E, where it was a set in the 1930s with Jeremy Irons, and Jeremy Irons is in front of me and he breaks down in tears, right? So he's flooding with these tears going down his face. And my eye line then for that shot had to go slightly off, and they pushed me off, and just behind him was a PA stuffing donuts in his face.
Oh, man.
And it's so, and it was just going everywhere. And of course, I'm heightened emotion. I've got this, you know, I think he's an Academy Award winning actor, or at least a nominee, doing this most amazing scene right in front of my face. And yet this, it drove me nuts. Now, I didn't have that ability at that stage. I was like 15, 16, to say, hang on, can you move out of my eye line?
Right.
But I know a lot of actors who are more experienced that do. And you do not want to be that one person on set where the actor says, hang on, can you move out of the way? Because you just, and you don't have to be eating a donut. You can just be staring at the person. And ultimately, that scene is between these two people. It's not between this other person. So if you are looking at the actor, we gravitate towards other people's eyes. So the best thing you can do is to give actors space. And I know you've talked about it in the past, turn away from the scene.
Yep. If you have to be close to the set, if you must be close to the set, I've seen every single department. I'm not going to call out one department. I have seen PAs, grids, electrician, camera. I've seen everybody. If you have to be next to the set, turn your back. Turn your back. You know, the actors, oftentimes the actors are respectful for you while you're doing your job. They're sitting in their chairs if they're in the green room or at the cast little village. They're respecting you while you move your equipment. So let's respect them. Turn your back to the performance so that they can concentrate on what their job is and what they're here to do. And on the flip side of that, the cast, they're the top and the talent, right? But then you've got your background performers, or your BG as we call them. Respect the BG. They are also an integral part of the set. And you know what? They deserve to eat. They deserve to ride in van rides just like you do. They deserve and are entitled to shaded holding when it's 95 degrees outside. So again, respect. It's respect. Respect the rules. I know we talked about closed-toed shoes. We talked about don't talk while we're rolling. Also, wear a safety vest when we're shooting on the street. It's for your safety. And I can't tell you how many people have been like, I don't want to wear that. Wear a safety vest. It's the rule. Don't enter a soundstage when the red light is on. It's a rule for sound.
When we talk about the soundstage, let's just set that up. How do you know when you're filming on a soundstage, both in terms of outside the soundstage, but also when you're inside?
Yeah, so if you're outside, there's typically a red light next to the doors, and it will be brightly shining when we are rolling. So that's an indication of, hey, don't come in. And now there's usually typically two doors. There's an outside door, and then you have a little breezeway, and then there's another door that leads you to the soundproof stage. And a lot of people think, well, if I'm just quiet, don't do it. Respect the rule. Don't come in when the light's on. When you are on a sound stage, two things. One, the sound department, they're connected to what's called a light and bell. So they're the people that are typically in charge of the light and bell. And the bell is, it'll ring once long and loud, like, beep. That's how you know we're rolling. And when it goes beep, beep, that's how you know we're cut. So a long roll, a long sound is rolling. Two short ones is a cut. And they typically also roll them for rehearsals. But another indication, you're going to hear every AD and every PA shout, we're rolling, quiet on set. So you'll know when we're rolling and when we're cut. So respect those rules.
Hey, you know what? One of the things we didn't talk about earlier on when we talked about phones, if you do have your phone, turn it off or turn it on silent. Mm-hmm. Because you do not want to be the person who suddenly in the middle of a take, your phone goes off.
It's the worst.
You will get, my goodness. Now, listen, you mentioned something else a moment ago, which was food. Now, this is where we get into very big etiquette in England. So there are a couple of things. One is we do a thing being very, very English where we have afternoon tea on film sets. So at 3 o'clock or around 3 to 4 o'clock, that sort of time, we all break for 15 minutes. Everyone breaks. The sheets go over, the plastic sheets go over the camera. You're going to have a cup of tea and usually a donut or a cucumber sandwich or something very British. But the rule in that case is no one touches that table until the first AD says we're breaking for afternoon tea. And so that's just the dumb thing. Now, I'd love for you to speak to that in terms of a craft table and etiquette around a craft table in America, because I know it's not the same. We're in America. You just eat as much as you like. But the other thing is when you line up to get your food at lunchtime and the etiquette around that in terms of people possibly jumping to the front of the queue or you letting people in. So would you talk a little bit about both of those in your experience?
Yeah, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting this question, but this is a very good question. I actually have a question for you, mentioning your tea time. I had my first real tea made by someone from London the other day, and it was fantastic. So kudos on you guys and your tea. But do you guys have food round the clock on a set, or is it specific times?
You know what? You'd have a small little table set up for tea and coffee and perhaps some little snacks, but not really much snacks during the
Oh,
morning. It would
wow.
mainly be tea and coffee, perhaps some biscuits, or sort of not a big sort of table the way that you guys have.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then
Okay.
you'd have that again for the afternoon, where that's when it would come out and you'd have all your sandwiches and what have you. But it wouldn't be a big snack table. I mean, I've seen some of the
Oh
snack
my
tables
gosh.
in LA, and they are huge.
Oh, I'm about to educate. Okay, so
Now, also, just so you know, we don't have a craft person. We don't have a crafty. So all food and all drink is looked after by the catering team in England. Now,
wow.
I also think, and this is where, we're going through a lot of major changes at the moment because of COVID-19. And one of those
Hmm.
changes that we're seeing is crafty is changing. And we're not entirely sure how that's going to land and what have you. But tell us a little bit about how that works in the good old US of A.
Well, you guys are gonna love it. um, I'll every show I've ever been on pretty much, but I'll use Good Girls. I was on the show on NBC called Good Girls. It's actually still running. So here's what our food looks like through the day, and then I'll talk about the etiquette. We have a catering truck that provides breakfast. You can get pretty much anything that you want for breakfast. They have a truck that makes a bunch of stuff and a whole setup. It's crazy. Crafty also comes in. They set up an entire table of literally every type of snack, drinks, doesn't matter, whole coffee bar, like everything that you can imagine. So we have that, and we have that throughout the whole day, and they update it. So 3 hours after call, they bring in what's called a hot snack, and it's basically another catered meal. Then 6 hours after call, we break for lunch, which the caterer has set up, and it's always like a steak and a fish and a chicken, and I mean everything. People's minds would be blown. 3 hours after lunch, Crafty usually comes in and brings in another hot snack. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we're probably obese in this country, is because we're constantly fed. And then oftentimes the writer or director or producer will bring in a food truck or treat us to a coffee truck, typically on Fridays for like a great job throughout the week. So we're constantly being fed. We also have a crafty truck that on Good Girls, for example, best crafty truck I've ever seen. They had a hot dog rotating machine. They had a nacho machine. They had kombucha on tap and
Oh
cold
my
brew on tap.
goodness.
Okay, literally everything. Same with Modern Family. Like they had a lot of stuff too. So anyway, you can go inside the crafty truck and make a sandwich anytime you want. Now, talking about etiquette. So whenever you're making a sandwich or something like that, and again, this is all going to change with COVID, and it's probably going to be a little sad, but pre-COVID too, you need to wear gloves. They have plastic gloves, and so it was anytime that you're making a sandwich or anytime that you're grabbing something, more specifically for an actor, even too. Like if I'm making something for my boss or for an actor, always wear gloves. Always be safe and be sanitary. And so that's something that is important. Don't just crowd the table and cut in and push people and shove around. Like there's going to be plenty of food for everyone. So that's something I think that we would do. Clean up after yourself, because it's just like the set. This is someone's job. This is someone's table that they're constantly having to make look nice and keep clean. And if you just leave something spilled or whatever, it's like, that's super rude. So always clean up after yourself. Now, an interesting point that I thought you made about the lunch line, it's very interesting, and I've actually explained this to a lot of PAs and a lot of background performers. So typically, the actors' hair and makeup typically go first in the line as soon as we break for lunch, and that's because they have touch-ups that they have to do. So while we might get a longer lunch, like an hour lunch, let's say, they might have a 30-minute lunch and then a 30-minute touch-up. So it's not because they're better than you or what have you. It's because they're getting a shorter lunch than you, and they need to go back in to do touch-ups so that when we're called back in, they're ready to go. And then typically, all the union crew, they go before the PAs. And sometimes I have an issue with this with some people, just in the way that they handle it. But also I understand, because we're non-union on a set. When I was a PA, I was non-union. And, the union people are the ones who are counted in what's called the last man. We call a last man. And from that last man in line, that's when the 30-minute lunch starts. And if you count another 6 people in there before the last man, then you're prolonging your day. So it's all about understanding how production works. And it's the same with the background. Because typically when we break for lunch, we still have lighting to do when we come back in. And so it's not so imperative that the background get in and get to go in first. It's the crew needs to get back in because they have work to do. So the background are typically at the very, very back of the line. Again, not because they're lesser in this socioeconomic status or whatever. It's because this is how the production functions and we need to make our day. So it's interesting that you pointed that out. And I think the more people understand that, the less they'll be offended by it.
And I think that's something that with a lot of what we're talking about here with etiquette, don't be offended easily, because there is often a reason why things are happening. Or if someone is a bit of a bully, don't take it personally. You don't have to work with that person again,
right?
But don't take things personally. In many cases, there's a reason for it. If there isn't a reason for it, it could just be that it's someone that's not very nice. But also with set etiquette, and you talked a little bit earlier about this, if someone is being inappropriate, you have every right at that point to say, that's a line, I'm not going there. One of the, and I think that especially comes through with health and safety. Talk to me a little bit. There's been a lot in the news over the last 6 years, I suppose, when we look at health and safety, especially with indie movies. And by the way, I just want to say, when we're talking about catering and all the crafty, these are big productions that are like that. So if you just got on an indie that's $1 million, it's not going to be the same. So I don't want you turning up on the first day expecting all that and going, what is this?
Yeah.
Pizza, and that's it. But when we look at where was I've completely blanked on what I was talking about, because I suddenly realized we needed to prep to make sure people didn't expect all that with
health and safety on indie films.
So when we talk about set etiquette, health and safety of regardless of set etiquette is really important. But how do you deal with that when you look at something and you go, this doesn't feel safe to me? How do you deal with that in a way where you can maintain a set etiquette and a respect for people around you, but you can also flag something and say, this doesn't feel right? How do you deal with that?
That's a good point. I actually just dealt with that recently in the transportation department that I was working with, and I was asked to drive. I was asked to drive this picture car. And it was an indie film, very low budget. I was asked to drive a picture car, and we were supposed to be making a loop because we were going to be shooting out of the window and shooting an apartment complex or something driving by. And we were making a loop around this block. Well, the first AD decided to save time that he was just going to have me back up down the road, live road, no ITC, no police officers, no lane closures, no street closures, was going to ask me to back up my vehicle. And mind you, I can't see out of the back. It's a very old-timey period piece car. Can't see, limited views, didn't have mirrors. It was extremely it was extremely unsafe. And also this AD had requested that my walkie be changed to a channel that he's on and not one that my coordinator was on. So there was a communication thing there that I wasn't allowed to do with my boss. Anyway, very, very dangerous situation. And as someone who has taken all the DGA safety training courses and has been trained by a lot of DGA members for the past 8 years, I immediately recognized this is not safe and this is not okay. So I picked up my cell phone when my car was parked, and I called my boss and I said, hey, I don't even know if you're here. I can't see, in this car, but this is what's happening. And I called him and I let him handle the situation. I reported to I did actually say to the first AD, hey, I don't really feel comfortable doing this. This is kind of not safe. And then when I was kind of not being heard, I then called my immediate boss. I let my boss know. He was like, oh, no. He shut it down immediately and was like, no, we're going to be taking the loop safely. So never be afraid to speak up. And I have done a lot of things as a PA that I now wish I would have said, I'm not doing that. That's so unsafe. But please hear me when I say your life matters and your life is more important than a TV show. So if you find yourself in a situation that you're not comfortable with and you're not okay with, please speak up, because people have lost their lives. And honestly, They might donate the episode to you in your name and your remembrance, but it's not going to bring your life back. So speak up. Tell your immediate boss. And if your boss isn't listening, tell their boss, or tell, speak up. Just say no. Walk away from the set if you're not being heard. That's my personal advice. But
absolutely, I'm with you 100%. It is better to stand up for yourself than to be put in a position where some real damage could be done to you or to someone else.
Absolutely.
So one of the things when we look at health and safety is paying attention on set, right? And we talked about that earlier. Don't be the person sitting in the corner and just reading your book.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff going on a set with big lights being moved, wires being placed on, being put around places. And so part of that etiquette is, one, making sure that if you're having to put anything down, that you're putting it in a safe place and in the right place. We talked about earlier about putting stuff on a hot set, where hot set means where you're filming. But also understanding how actually safety works on a set with things being moved and just being aware. I think that's something that a lot of people aren't fully prepared about. And I can't remember whether we talked about it on our break or whether we talked about it already, but the idea of, if you're walking down a fire lane, and when you look at film studios, there are fire lanes all around the side in case there's a problem for people to get out. But if you see someone walking down with the big light and you're walking down with a piece of paper, you got it. The etiquette is you move out of the way so that you're not impeding the person who's carrying the heavy light.
Yeah, we talked about that during our break, and that's a big one for me. And I have done this accidentally because, we all have our bosses. We're all on different channels on the walkie, and we all have our bosses in our ears on our walkie, and we're so focused. Everyone's so focused on doing what their boss is telling them to do. I'm telling you, if you've never worn a walkie and you've never had an earpiece in your ear, it's very distracting. And you can get zoned into what your department's doing it, but you have to still be aware. I have done this. I will say, I'm sure there are some grips and electricians out there going, Alisha. But as I got more experienced, I realized, oh yeah, like if I'm just trying to bring sides to someone and so-and-so is bringing a ladder, that ladder is heavier than my piece of paper. And that ladder matters more in the moment than my piece of paper. And giving those people respect, giving them the right of way on a set, and not impeding the fire lanes too. Don't just put a bunch of crap in the fire lanes. That's for everyone's safety. Also stunts, when stunts are being done on set, respect stunts. Listen to the stunt coordinator, listen to the first AD. These are people's lives. They're very dangerous situations and things. If you don't need to be close to the set during a stunt, then don't. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with safety. And also on the fact of the people. So if you're not carrying the equipment, give the people with equipment the right of way. But then people with equipment, if you're coming out of a doorway or something that people might not be able to see you, they shout something and they say points, and lets you know that what's about to come out of this door could give you some free dental. That's what we call it, free dental, because you're gonna get your head knocked in with a ladder or a grip track or something like a camera track, dolly track. So people with equipment, make sure you give the crew a heads up and shout points when you're coming through doorways, but people without equipment, give them the right of way.
Hey, so this brings me on to another area when you're talking about getting around a film set. And this is something that I've heard mixed feedback on, which when I started in theater umpteen years ago in London, one of the rules was you never run in a theater. You never run, because that suggests something has gone wrong and there's panic.
Right.
How is it in a lot of the sets that you've worked on in terms of running? Is running something that, no, you run there to get as quick as you can to get it done? Or is that frowned upon? What do you think?
That's a good question. It depends on the ADs. That's the thing I have an issue with too. When I was green, that's a term for when you're new to this set. When I was green, I was like, some ADs can create this sense of panic. And they're like, hurry. And so you're running around, you're doing all this and doing all that. No, as I got further in my career, I was like, look, I'm flying in at the speed of scale, speed of minimum wage. That's how I'm flying in. And I'm not going to run and trip over something because you don't give me health insurance. Again, it goes back to protecting yourself. You should never run on a set ever. But some ADs say, hey, don't run. But then they're also the first people to say, hurry. And so again, it goes back to protect yourself. I advise never running on a set, because that's how you get hurt. That's how you get injured. Have I done it? Yes, I have. But speaking from experience, protect yourself. Always stand up for yourself. Don't run.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Now, listen, we talked about walkies an awful lot. And walkies is a big one because it's the communication hub of the entire unit.
Yep.
Walkie-talkie etiquette. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, this is a good one, and especially if you're new. Learning a walkie can be a really odd experience at first. Having this earpiece in your ear that's directly into your eardrum, it's uncomfortable. It's weird. It's awkward at first. Listen on the walkie. If you're new, listen more than speaking. Don't speak unless you're addressed to specifically, because a lot of people are on channel 1. Now, if you're on channel 6, that's for camera. If you're on channel 7, that's for electric. If you're on channel 8, that's for grip. And they tend to have like their 8 people on their team, and it's great. But on channel 1, you've got the ADs, you've got the PAs, you've got props, you've got the set medic, you've got greens, you've got sometimes special effects, sometimes they're on 16. You've got crafty, you've got, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of people trying to make use of this channel, of channel 1. So listen. It goes back to what you were saying earlier. Anticipate the situation, look around you, see what's needed, see what's about to happen. And you can find out a lot of that by listening and not talking. But if you do talk on the walkie, again, listen. If someone else is currently speaking, don't talk. So wait until there's a pause and then say something, because it's what we call stepping on each other. And if 2 people talk on the walkie at the same time, it's jumbled. You won't hear anything but static. Another thing is, if you're going to have a conversation on the walkie that's going to last more than 10 seconds, and this is a massive rule for all the ADs out in LA. If you're going to have a conversation that's going to last a while, and typically they say more than 10 seconds, take it to channel 2. Channel 2 and typically channel 4 are channels that are free, that are open, that don't have crew members on them. So if you need to say, like, let's say, for example, I'm running background and I need to get them propped up, and they have cars and we need to get license plates on the cars, and I need to speak to props. Let's say his name is Josh. I need to speak to Josh props. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna listen. Nobody's on the walkie. Cool. Hey, Josh props, channel 2, please. I'm going to switch on my walkie to channel 2. Josh is going to say, hey, Alisha, what's up? Hey, Josh, so I just want to let you know the background. Where do I need to do this? Oh, okay. Here are all the cars. It's a long conversation. We're not affecting anyone. It's me and Josh on this channel. And the purpose for that is channel 1 needs to be free. It is the first AD's channel. And that goes back to respecting chain of command. It's the first AD's channel. The first AD might have an emergency and he might need to speak and shout and say something, and he can't because you're over here blabbing about what's going on at Crafty on channel 1. So it's cool to joke. It's cool to have fun. We do often. It's cool to have conversations, but if it's going to last longer than 10 seconds, switch to channel 2.
That's awesome. And look, there's a lot of terminology that's used on radio as well, which again, you can look up on Google. We're going to go into some of that with the Film Crew 101 podcast. And we'll have some resources there to help you get to grips with some of that terminology. But a lot of this is also stuff that you'll pick up. And I think one of the best things you can do for all of this set etiquette is what you just said, which is listen. When you listen, you will learn so much for how other people are operating, how people are reacting to others, depending on what they're doing. And you will very, very, very quickly get to a stage where you're feeling more comfortable. Because I know it's a huge amount to take in, and every project is slightly different. So just because you think you've just got it with this one film doesn't mean it's going to be the same on the next one.
Very true.
Okay, so what else do we have really in terms of set etiquette? One of the things you mentioned earlier on was this idea of when you were a PA and no one knew the name of the other PA. Introducing yourself and why you're on set. It's pretty important for people to know why you're there so they can count on you and call on you, and for them to know your name. Because again, a lot of requests come over the radio. So over the radio, they've got to know your name. So make sure you do introduce yourself. And being British, I'd say shake hands, although that's not quite happening with COVID. perhaps an elbow bump or whatever that is. But I think introducing yourself, because this is also part of you making sure that you have other jobs to go to. You want to build your brand. And you want to build your identity so that people go, oh, that Alisha, she's great. Let's get her onto this next project. But they're only going to know that if you've introduced yourself to people.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, you know, and that's in any position, you know, whether let's say you have a headache and you're going to the medic to get Tylenol. And you just walk up to the medic and you say, hey, do you have any Tylenol? You know, we get it. You've worked a 15-hour day. You're exhausted, you know, this and that, but proper protocol, proper human decency is, hi, my name's Alisha. What's your name? Oh, hi, I'm Shannon, the medic. Shannon, nice to meet you. I was wondering if you had any Tylenol that I could have. I just have a little bit of a headache. Oh, sure. Absolutely, Alisha. No problem. You know, again, respect. I can't say respect enough on a set. Respect someone, introduce yourself. And more specifically, if you're a PA and you're a day player and it's your first day on the show, you need to go up and introduce yourself to the ADs. I can't tell you how many ADs we've had day players come in and they didn't walk up and introduce themselves to the first AD, because the thing is, first ADs probably not going to know who you are or probably not care. But if you walk up in a good moment, again, in a good moment, maybe possibly during a setup where they have some downtime, walk up and say, hi, are you Jeffrey? Hi, my name's Alisha. I'm one of your day players today. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know I'm here for you any way that I can be. They will have so much respect and be like, Alisha, thanks for joining the team. We appreciate you. And then tomorrow when they need another day player, they're going to go, you know what? That Alisha girl, she introduced myself to her. She made herself known. Let's get her back tomorrow. I've seen it happen millions of times. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Make sure people know your name. And really, again, set etiquette is about building your career. And I think to your point, what you just said reminds me also, there's a cafe in the south of France that charges 3 prices for the same coffee, right? If you go in and say, un café, it's €1.80. If you go in and say, un café s'il vous plaît, it's $1. It's €1.50. If you go in and say, bonjour, un café s'il vous plaît, it's €1.25. Wow. That's the difference. And we need to approach that not just with film set etiquette, but everything we do in our life. Be friendly, be cordial, say please and thank you, and look people in the eye and introduce yourself.
Yep. Be thankful. That is a major one, because here's the thing. In every department on set, you're going to be working closely with every other department, right? So if you're respectful and you're thankful, regardless of whether or not it is that person's responsibility to bring you that stinger, provide that stinger to the hair person who needs a hair dryer close to the actor's chair, or provide that apple box to the stand-in who's just quite not tall enough and needs an apple box to get them taller at the request of the DP, or it's that PA's responsibility to give you a hot brick because your walkie's chirping and it's dying and you need one. It doesn't matter if it's that person's job or not. Saying 2 simple words, thank you, makes a world of difference. If you say thank you, hey, thank you so much for the apple box. I really appreciate it. I will return it upon, completion of the day. Great. Hey, thank you so much for that stinger. I really appreciate you taking your time out of this chaos over here to get me this stinger. I appreciate it. Thank you. Telling the medic, thank you for the Tylenol. Hey, thank you so much for my hot brick. I can't tell you how many guys have walked up and shaken a brick, just shaking a brick in my, they don't even know me. I'm a day player, shaking a brick in my face. And I'm always like, I'm kind of a brat about it now, but I'll say, hi, my name's Alisha. What's your name? They're like, oh, my name's Jeff. Jeff, it's really nice to meet you. Do you need a hot brick? Yes, I do. Oh, okay, sure. Because we need to teach people, say thank you. When you hop out of a van from transportation, hey, thanks for the ride. Because being thankful, regardless of whether it's that person's responsibility or not, fosters an environment that is friendly, kind, and respectful, and it shows teamwork, and that's how we get things done, and that's how we survive 70-hour work weeks together.
Oh, that is awesome. And I think that's a perfect way to round up today, because we just did another 45 minutes Amazing. And so I am enormously thankful for you returning to Oklahoma and
Thank
for
you.
being a massive part of the growth of this industry, which is just the opportunities are abound for anyone wanting to get involved in film and TV here in Oklahoma. Enormously thankful for your time today. And I'm thankful for everyone who's tuned in to listen to this and everything that's going on with deadCenter, because deadCenter, their ability to pull everyone together is just phenomenal. And of course, the wonderful, fantastic team at the Oklahoma Film and Music Office, who really are our champions out there to the world, helping us build our industry, get more money invested in Oklahoma so that we can get more people employed in good paying jobs, and at the same time increase taxes so that those taxes can go on things like schools and increasing it for everyone here in Oklahoma. The film industry has a massive ability to have an impact. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting deadCenter. Do make sure that you send a tweet out. If you have any other questions, Alisha, are you on Twitter or anything?
I'm not on Twitter, but I do have an Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
It's at Alisha East, ALISHAEAST.
There we go. So I'm sure you can go and pop a question on something over there. Myself, it's just at richardjanes.com. That's both for Instagram and Twitter. The last thing I'll leave you with is, obviously, Alisha and I are heavily involved with the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy. Alisha's been hosting these fantastic podcasts, which are absolutely brilliant. And we have a whole host of people throughout Oklahoma hosting these, interviewing people at the top of their game. So if you go over now to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of your normal podcast subscribers, look up Film Crew 101, and what you'll see there is the initial trailer, because this is the podcast get released in a few weeks. But just subscribe to that so you get notified when the new episodes come out, because that's going to be a lot more of what we're talking about here, but over many, many, many hours. As you can see, Alisha and I can talk the socks off anyone. So thank you so much. Alisha, is there anything else you want to leave these wonderful people with?
No, I mean, I do want to say I'm grateful to be back in the great state of Oklahoma. I'm thankful that the Film Academy has welcomed me, and the state of Oklahoma and the film office has welcomed me with open arms. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you. I'm looking forward to working closely with you. I think I wouldn't be here in Oklahoma City if I didn't think that the state is about to be flooded with excellent, remarkable film work here. I think that we are starting something huge that's going to happen in the state. And I'm really thankful. I'm really grateful to be here at the ground floor of something that's going to be so spectacular. And I'm always available for any questions that anyone has. I'm here to teach. I'm here to share my experiences and my knowledge. And so, Richard, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to all the listeners. I look forward to doing the question and answer with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye. You might say